Hello, I'm Sunnier, and this is my sketchbook tour. Um, I think this might be the first traditional art video that I've made, like besides shorts. But I want to do more of these in the future because I love doing traditional art. It is so fun. So here we go. First, I'm gonna start with stickers. I got this at an art fair. I think these three were just like from random like doctor's appointments. Just collected them. And this one is Pearl from DDBAU. And then on the back here, this is a Gilmore Girls reference. So the sketchbook was from 2024, like late 2024 to just a few days ago. Well, depending on like how far in the future you're watching this, 2026. This is my Sona, or at least like what she used to look like before she had all the colors. And this was me experimenting with Ohuhu markers, which are alcohol. And I love Ohuhus. They're so fun to blend. Like, look at this. Look at this. It's awesome. On the next page, I tried to use that as a background because, of course, those markers have to bleed. That's like the one drawback of them, but they make for a cool background. So then I used Posca pens on top of it, and also like another Ohuhu thing that I just cut out and put on there. This is Cherry Fire, like her basic default design, and a cherry tree. And then with this drawing, these are two like real pieces of paper from a bonfire, and I just kind of took them and I put them in my sketchbook. So I just kind of tried to get them to blend in with the rest of the page, and I drew a little person. I hate the background, but that's fine. And here's Pearlescent Moon. Oh my gosh, Pearl! I love Empire's Pearl. She's so cool. This is like specifically a reference to how she gets worshipped in the second season. This was with watercolors, plus this really awesome pen I found, but I have no clue where it went, so I can't give you a recommendation. And then here's the little sticky notes. Here, this is, I think, the Ohuhu water markers. This is like the scientist gem. I can't remember if it was a certain scientist. I think she might have been an anthropologist, like in Hermitcraft season 10. And then these two are just kind of normal, though I think this is like supposed to be Secret Life. And I just had fun with colors over here. The sticky note is because I had a little bit too much fun with colors, and that happened. So that's why that's there. And then there's a little green with the watcher symbol. This is me and a friend's OC. His name is Blue. He's both of these guys. He's a human and a dragon. First dragon of the book. Whoa. I love drawing dragons, but I don't think I drew that many in the sketchbook. These again were done with the Ohuhu water-based pens. And then also I think these were Posca pens on top. So I'm pretty proud of the hatching on this, and also like getting water-based markers to look good because sometimes it is a struggle, but I'm pretty proud of this page. Oh no. So I kind of left this blank for a while, I'll be so honest. I did this sketch like at the beginning of like the timeline, and then I went back a few days ago and did the pen. I was just so burnt out, and I wanted to finish the sketchbook and not have a completely blank page. So I finished that up. I don't love how it looks, but it's fine. Also, awesome little cherry petal a friend made. And then also on the topic of friends, there was gonna be another one of these here. And as a placeholder, my friend drew a dino nugget. And now I just can't bring myself to replace it because it's beautiful, and I don't think a siren could ever look better than that, so that's just gonna be how it is forever. Okay, here is my Sona, but before she has her bandana, because, so now she just kind of looks a little off because she doesn't have, like, the nice pink in her design that she usually has. I think this was also, like, before I was sure that I wanted the shark thing to be a hat instead of a hood. So that's a little goofy looking. And, oh my gosh. So, Cowboy SMP happened, which is amazing. I love Cowboy SMP. So, originally this wasn't gonna be a Cowboys spread. So, I drew Mumbo Jumbo, as one does. And I drew a bunch of bugs and turned him into a bug. And then I drew Cherry Fire, and then Apokuna, and then Forcy, and then Cherry, and then, and then it just kept going until I had a fully, like, Cowboy SMP spread. Mumbo was not in that show, by the way. He's here. And it's so silly to me because also I posted this drawing as like a Cowboy SMP drawing, and then Cherry and Appo both found it and reblogged it. But it has Mumbo Jumbo as a bug on it, and I think that's really funny. So these were done with highlighters. I think I had like 3 or 4 highlighters, and I just kind of layered them on top of each other. And I'm pretty proud of how they turned out. Like, the lighting on the hair is really fun. The Narpy coloring is fun. So I'm overall pretty proud of that. I just think it's really silly to have just everything be cowboys and then have this guy. Oh, and then here, this is the redstone poisoning. Ooh. I don't fully remember what the concept was, but I think the whole thing was that redstone was poisonous, or like had this effect where if you interacted with it too much, it would like start to taint things in the way you saw things. So here, as an example, is Etho. Other redstoners, like when they see him without the mask, that's what he looks like. That's why he wears his mask, to like stop that from being seen. And then there's also Cleo, who's also like equally cursed. Etho has like an air sign and a maple leaf coming out of his eyes, and then Cleo has her snake thing going on. This is I don't really know. I don't know what the thought process fully was. I think I was gonna have like a line here separating this with like normal Etho seeing his reflection and having it be all cursed, but I didn't draw the line, so now it's just 2 of them. But that's fine. On to the next page. Emily Petersmark! So if y'all don't know, Emily Petersmark is one of the lead singers from the Crane Wives, and she's really cool. I originally had like doodles on this page, but they got smeared, so I erased them. And this is like, I think, first realism of the book. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. Like, it doesn't look exactly like the reference photo, but it's fine. I think this was when I got my Artex pens. Artex are like my favorite traditional thing to use now, because you can just layer them. Like, if you layer them, they are opaque, so it's really fun. I drew a koi fish here, and then season 10 Gemini Tay. Oh, and also they're really fun to like work with watercolor markers as well. Like, you can just put them on top and it looks all pretty. Though I haven't been doing that often. I should get back into that. Here is another OC I share with my friends. Her name is Mira, and she's a little witch with light magic, and she overthrows the government. I think I recorded the process for this drawing, so you can probably find that on my shorts. Though this one, like, I'm a lot more proud of. This one, I really like the shading on. Well, here it gets a little bit blurry, but that's fine. Also, the background is fun. It's fun. Here is my Sona once I like finally actually got her design right. This was on a different piece of paper, but I just copied it and then printed it out and colored it in. and then glued it on here, and then also glued these on. So I think this might be one of my favorite pages. It was just fun to make, and I still like enjoy this design. And then here, I love prehistoric creatures. So these are my favorite ones. I love velociraptors, I love dodos, I love like plesiosaurus, I love a good Falkland Island wolf. These were done with Artex and watercolors. So I was doing watercolor on the bottom and then putting Artex on top. This page is really thick because of all the extra paper. Here's another little prehistoric guy. Funny story, at like a museum recently, I saw a mosasaur and a plesiosaur, and I just started fangirling. Like I ran up to them, I was like, oh my gosh, I've drawn fan art of these! I personally think that anything you draw is fan art as long as you like what you're drawing. So I'm putting that opinion out there. Here is, I think she was the Malta singer for Eurovision, I think 2025. Every Eurovision, I try to draw one of the singers. So she was the person. She didn't win, unfortunately, but I did like her song. This is like Pearl Double Life reference, I think. I don't know what's going on here, I'll be so honest, because Scott was kind of the one pulling her back, but then that's her. I don't know, symbolism or something. I never finished it, but that's fine. I like how it looks currently, so I don't think I'm gonna go back and change it. This is Cleo. Usually I make her design look really different, like I take a chunk out of her face and make her more like ragged zombie-ish. So this is the rare non-tortured Cleo. I'm really proud of how the colors came out. These were hoo-hoos. And then art fight started. So I started doing some traditional art fight attacks. This is like a Hollow Knight OC someone made. I don't know what they're from. They might just be an OC of theirs, but I think this one's from Cherry Fire, and then I think this is Pyro Illustrates. I don't know who made this character, but I love their design. I'm a sucker for like single colored eyes. This is Kate Pillsbury. I'm so sorry, Kate. This is sometimes realism doesn't go as planned. This is the other singer in the Crane Wives. She's also really cool. This is why we have sticky notes. I can't take this seriously. Look at that. Oh my gosh, I keep taking this off accidentally. Ah! Next page. These are more art fight attacks. I can't remember who made either of these characters, but I love their designs. These are more highlighter art. And then there's the so I remember this was during Past Life. I made 2 animations and like they had taken all week and they were fully colored and I did not have the time to make them, so I was just staying up really late at night finishing those. So then I think when the 3rd episode hit, I just couldn't anymore. So I gave up making animations and just drew a realistic fish, as one does. I'm pretty proud of how I layered everything, because sometimes layering things doesn't go as planned. But in this, I got like a hoo-hoo marker, Prismacolor pencil. I did like some extra lines of just like normal pencil, and then I also did, I think, Posca pen on top for the white. Pretty proud of how it turned out. Here are some of my very own actual real original characters. These are all like mutants. Verbena, this is her. She's like a flower mutant. She just kind of makes flowers, which is nice. I don't want to spoil things for the story if I ever actually like show it anywhere, but the flower powers will not save her. This is Evelyn. She's kind of like a bird hybrid. She has wings and sometimes she grows feathers in her hair. Also, she's kind of a girl failure. Like, she's a vigilante, but every time she tries to like find stuff and use it against like the people she's fighting, she'll accidentally like lose it. Like, she had really important documents and maps to a warehouse and she just put them in the washing machine. So that's kind of her vibe. Also, there's this guy named Alabaster. He's made of porcelain and she dropped him from the sky. So he's kind of broken now. And then this is Victoria. She's scolding her. Kind of rude. I don't know. I feel like that's a mistake anyone can make. You could drop anyone from the sky. It happens all the time. Inktober started after that. So the prompt was mustache. Who else was I supposed to make them mumbo jumbo? The hatching goes crazy on here. I only had like 2 pens at the time. And I was pretty proud of how that worked. There's like little grumbot on here and there's a end crystal earring. And then also a plant as a reference to the Peace, Love, and Plants thing. This is Pearl. I like to draw her as a moth sometimes. So when the prompt was weave, I thought about like silk, like a silk moth. So then I just drew a moth and Pearl. And it was like ink, which I think you can tell, but it was fun. Here is like Ocean Queen Lizzie from Empires. The prompt was crown, so I drew her with her little like crown made of seashells and coral. And then for day 4 it was murky, so I did like something similar, but her just in murky water. I don't know if you can tell, but there's like supposed to be ripples going around like her face and her hand because those are the 2 things that are surfacing, and then her crown is just kind of drifting away. This is like the prompt was deer. I don't know if this is something you're supposed to do. I don't know if you're supposed to draw this creature. I heard recently that you're not supposed to, so sorry. I won't do it again. But I drew Gem like wearing a deer skull. This doesn't have to be that creature either. Just Gem wearing a deer skull mask. Like in Secret Life when she went crazy and did the whole zombie thing. This is when vampires started. You're gonna see a lot more of this. A lot more of this in your future. The prompt was pierce. Vampires, they do that. They pierce skin. So this is the 2 starting vampires, Scott and Owen. I love how like much their vibes contradict each other. Like Scott's there for a good time. Owen is having the worst time. So I had that. I was also obviously like watching Cleo's perspective because we got the letter there. Like a big part of her episodes is that she writes letters at the beginnings. There's just like a bunch of the tiny little references here and there. And then for day 7, it was starfish. So I drew like a little scientist gem again. And then for day 8, I got kind of lazy. I just did Grian pressing a button he's not supposed to press. Day 9 was heavy, so I drew Pearl with a gigantic axe. Day 10 was sweep, so I drew Mira again, but with a broom because she's a witch, and I don't know, that's like the #1 witch requirement. For Sting, I did bee Exuma. I can't remember what season he was a bee in, but he was at some point. So I just made a design where he's basically like a bee mech suit. Like there's just a bee inside of his brain controlling the whole thing. For Shredded, I just did a little guy made of paper. And he goes through some stuff. For 13, it was drinks, so I just practiced drawing objects, as in drinks. And then 14 was trunk. I got lazy again and just did a car trunk. Do you remember how I said there was going to be more vampires in the near future? There's going to be even more than this. I absolutely loved Avid's character in Vampires like so much. This was from episode 5. I don't support him as a creator anymore because of the crazy stuff. But I still do love his character. And also, I love human Cleo, and also this design of Shelby is also really fun. So, day 15 was Ragged. This was after watching episode 5, where everything goes wrong. So, this is him having an awful time. It was like his neck wound. He looks awful. And then for 16, it was Blunder. And for Blunder, I just did the whole thing of him not like wanting to tell anyone that Shelby turned him. And then right as he got turned, there's immediately 2 vampires already. On day 17, I did ornate, so I did like pretty objects. Mirror, crown, necklace. Day 18, Swifton. I haven't like played a lot of Deltarune. I've done chapter 1 and 2, but the thing is, I'm really bad at gaming, so I haven't been able to fully get through chapter 2 because the queen is evil and mean. Then for 19, I did Arctic. Dragon! I used to draw a lot of Wings of Fire in my day, so I drew Prince Arctic from, the Darkstalker book. And then for day 20, I did Rivals, which is, Joel and Scott. And then 21 is Blast, so I drew, like, Jinx from Arcane. I tried to, like, do a good, like, proportional recreation of a frame, but I couldn't do it because there wasn't enough room, so I kind of squished everything. But I'm pretty proud of this and like proud of the shading. Here are some like little doodles of Pearl and Cleo. The yippee creature goes crazy. Day 22, Button, I drew Coraline because that's of course what I think about with Button. I don't know any other character related to Buttons, but like tell me if there are. Like she's kind of representing though. That's the Button character. Here is another like OC I kind of share with my friend. This is Firefly. He's also a human and a dragon. So dragon version, human version, fireflies. 24, Scar for Rowdy, because that's just kind of how he is. 25, Inferno, Avid burning down Shelby's house, which is evil. 26 was puzzling, and I did not have time, so I just did puzzle piece. 27 was Onion. I drew Smallish Beans. Sue me. He has Shrek antennas, okay? That's the closest you'll get. Like Onion, ogres are like onions. If this guy is an ogre, then that surely just like it's the same thing. Skeletal did a skull. Pretty proud of how that turned out, even though there's like some little weird things going on with the teeth. Lesson, I did Grian, like specifically DDVAU Grian, because he's a professor in that. Vacant, empty room. And then a 31 award, and I drew a little trophy for myself because I was free from Inktober. Here, I think there was a request someone submitted on Tumblr for a doodle of Oscar the cat, which is just in Vampires, how Cleo and Pearl had a like cat skull from one of the I can't remember, Crypts, and then randomly they just got a cat. They just got a cat from nowhere. So this is a little drawing of Oscar. I love him. And this was using Artex. Here, I got the most awesome multicolor pen ever. It's one of those like cheap, like no name brand ones. And it was from a grocery store that sold no other art supplies. But it is the most reliable art supply I've ever had. Like I'm still using it to this day. It's insane. So I drew like first with it Dr. Lagundo from Vampires, and then here's little Owen. I changed his design a lot more later. Here's the stupid This guy is stupid. This guy's stupid. Avid has this whole thing of like being really injured, but he does not tell the doctor. Like, what is he doing? There's a little bar of sensory because I was not drawing whatever injury he had. And then there's the two sides of Martin. Cleo tells Martin that she's a vampire. He's just fine with it. He's chill with that. And then there's Apokuna. Hey, Martin, I'm also a vampire. And he just crashes out. He does not like that. And then I drew Empire Season 2, The Princess of Dawn, Gemini Tay. And I'm really proud of how this turned out. I don't know how to feel about the art, like the line art. It kind of looks like a scraggly children's book. But I do like the coloring. That was done with Artex. Here, I let out all my like joy and whimsy. I love drawing with crayons. It is so freeing to draw with crayons. If any of you ever have art block ever, just pick up crayons, like the standard Crayola crayons you used as a small child, and just draw. And it'll be fun. So I drew Hermitcraft 11 gem, and then I drew Mysona, but in a lake. And then I drew Chris Deltarune. I watched White Pine, like I binge watched it all in one day, and it was amazing. It was completely peak. Any people who like watching like MCYT stuff, go watch White Pine. It's just a beautiful work of art, and also awesome music. Like, I've genuinely memorized one of the songs from it. I learned it in 3 days and memorized it. It's so fun to play. So I did like art text and pen. There's like the little beginning scene where she gets like introduced to the manor people, and they have like the whole dialogue of, "You are Ivy, right? Ivory, sir." And then art text. I'm really proud of this. This is probably like one of my favorite drawings in the sketchbook. The colors just mesh well together. And then here, this is from when Bannerfall started, and we got Apokuna, the Moon Knight, and Cherryfire, the rage-baiting princess. This is, I don't know, this is okay. I like the pen. I don't know if you can see it. I'm kind of moving this around. I use shiny pens, and they look really cool, except for on camera, because usually they don't actually like show the reflection. But if they do, then that's great. Here are some doodles from day one, where Cherryfire just kept getting into the worst situations ever, just rage baiting her knight so much. This is from when she stepped into a summoning circle, and then when she was trying to cast Fireball, and she just kind of punched a guy. This is just, Princess, that wasn't Fireball, you just punched that man. And then there's also them in the cave when Appo got shoved into lava, and Cherry was just sitting there. And then this is when I actually learned how to use my cool multicolor pen. I drew Drift from Vampires. I'm pretty happy with this design. And then there's like the tiny version of her. Here is Scott and Avid. I think this is like one of the only times I've been able to like actually draw how like Scott Goldsmith looks in my brain. So I'm happy with that. This is the 2006 AU with Jack Pyrocythe in it, Jack Von Pyrocythe, because I'm still upset about how Pyro never got a chance in Vampires. Like, this guy, Abolish gave Owen a chance. What about Pyro? He should have gotten a chance. So this is just them in 2006, if he joined the organization. And then Abolish with a gun. This is when I saw a bunch of people making like vampire SMP sonas, so I just kind of hopped on and made a character in that universe. Like Connie or Conifer Soulsmith, her whole ordeal is being a scientist who's also broke. So she's like trying to save money to fund her research, so she's like running a delivery service, and that's how she gets stuck in Oakhurst. And while in Oakhurst, she gets the idea to steal Scott Goldsmith's treasure. So she gets turned into a vampire and tries to do a thing where she gets like she becomes friends with a vampire so that they can give her money and trust her. But then also at the same time, she's trying to be like friends with the humans enough to the point where if they kill the other vampires, they'll be fine with her and let her go, and then she'll take the money. So this is her as a human, and then her as a vampire. And then this is another vampires AU, which is if Cherry was a starter vampire instead of a background character. So Cherry Firefall is kind of like the same character as Cowboy's Cherry. Like she tries to feed off of Appo. They kind of have the Cowboys hostage situation. She got turned while bounty hunter. Well, oh my gosh, I can't speak. She got turned while bounty hunting, and her goal is to get blood and a coven from a place that won't try to get revenge on her or recognize her, because as a bounty hunter, everyone hates her. Appo gets a book that helps her fight back, and she burns Cherry. So there's this scene of Cherry on a pyre, and her being all upset. Yeah. These poor two people can never get a break. It's awful. And then there's also Appo remembering Cherry because they met in the town of Pity in Cowboys. But she has hypnotizing magic. That's like her lineage trait. So there's like, I've met you before. Have you now? Where? And like from looking into Cherry's eyes, she just like gets that memory completely like blurred. So her face gets like completely covered up in her memories. This is more Scott Goldsmith. Like the eyes on this one, not right. It's not okay. I don't like that. Here's another dragon. I have a really hard time like drawing dragons from the front view, so this is a first time where it turned out good. This is Owen and Lagundo. I love drawing them. They're so fun. He has such like sharp shape language, and I just really enjoy that. Here's another drawing of Mysona. There's a Lewis. I don't love how Lewis turned out, but that's fine. Here's more Verbena. Curiosity kills the cat. I wonder what that could mean. I wonder what foreshadowing that is. So her going through it, and then also her with her powers. So this was highlighter and pen. And then this is Evelyn again, and her brother Caspian, who is also a bird mutant. And then I had more Bannerfall stuff. So here's Bannerfall Farsi. Slimes are really fun to draw. Like their hair and like shading is really just amazing. And then here's little doodles of Katie, Nom, and then another one of Forsey. Here, I think I was gonna go in and do more Artex, but I just didn't feel like it. So now there's just a pencil page of Cherry Fire from Cowboys. Here is, oh no, this was after Bannerfall finale, where Nom just kind of pulled a good old sacrifice thing and died. Spoilers if you haven't seen Bannerfall, sorry guys. So here's Katie the Brave looking all worried, and also Forsey. And then I did a little Cherry and Appo doodle. I wronged Appo so badly in this drawing. I don't know what's wrong with her face, but there's something going on. And then here I watched Searching for a World That Doesn't Exist and Destroying a World That Doesn't Exist. And I absolutely love the designs for these guys. They're going through so much. And I love all the quotes from it. So there's just like, at the crossroads, don't turn left. And then there's the leave Avery, what's in your inventory, keep going forward. And him being shoved off of the platform. This was, I think, when I was traveling. I just brought some pens with me and a highlighter. Like, that's all I had. This is, like, my current Avery design. I made him, like, more bug. He's just kind of bug. And I also kind of just, like, squished him down. And made him more, like, round. He's a car. I never draw cars ever, but I drew one. This is nominal gravy if you think about it. Another spoiler. We don't. Shh. It's nominal gravy. This is May Mazes. I was practicing realism. Realism is pretty hard for me because I just keep going back and erasing, and it doesn't turn out good because of that, so I just went in with a pen and tried my best. This is Rylan Grace from Project Hail Mary. Here's Rocky! I absolutely love the way that he can never wear glasses like a normal person. Like, they're just constantly hanging from his ears, and I love that. Here's Chandrea. I'm also really proud of how this turned out. And then this Bannerfall Shan. Both like Shan and May were really fun to draw. Like, I should do another pen realism thing again. Here is Derek from Searching for a World That Doesn't Exist. He's also going through it. And then there's like the cute scene from the library where Avery finally finds him. This is Derek witnessing the king. If y'all know, this is where things go downhill. Here, this was all one pen, like this entire page, except for this little bit of highlighter, but like this entire page is just pen. This is Kitty from Bannerfall. With the shading, I tried to do something new and just like try to use complementary colors to like fully do that and try not to use black. So I had like red and green down here to make it darker, and then I had like it going into yellow and pink to make it lighter in these sections. I'm really happy with how that turned out. I drew a real life friend. Usually I don't draw people when they tell me to draw them, but I was bored and I had nothing to do, so I drew her. And then this is Pearl again from Empires. This is Katie the Brave from Bannerfall. And then these are Cherryfire and Appo from Cowboys again. And this was around the time I made my like Cowboys animation. So I had been drawing these two a lot, but I was still not done with it. Like I was having a joyous time with these two character designs. And then this is Shelby from Vampires, like specifically her human version. I just kind of did highlighter plus dark spots. This is kind of like inspired from Deco's design of her. So that's like where I got the hair clip and like this cool thing with the bangs. So I'm crediting them for that. I don't know what else to say. I just kind of messed around with colors. I love colors. Here there's Scott Goldsmith. I think I did this on a road trip, and then I covered things up with Ardex later. Scott Goldsmith is just so fun to draw. I hate this guy. I hate this character. He's awful and evil, but also I love him and he's really fun to draw. And then here, like on the road trip, I made OCs with my friend. So this is Leola Clifton. She sneezes a lot. She's an expert in corn mazes. She's left-handed and she listens to true crime. She's a business major, and like for fun, she goes and takes like a crime solving class in college. And she accidentally cracks an impossible case for fun, and she's hired by the FBI. This is her ex-boyfriend, Leonardo, or Liam Redsmith. He wants to be a Twitch streamer, but his dad was a cult leader, and then his dad passed away. So then he became the cult leader. People started worshiping him, and he doesn't want to be there. He keeps trying to give his position to other people, but they just won't let him. He's kind of a loser. He meets Leola and then like almost breaks up immediately because she realizes how much of a loser he is. He drinks 5 Red Bulls a day, by the way, and he's wearing a Minecraft shirt underneath his cloak. Here is a friend's character. She was just kind of describing her, and I made a little drawing. I don't know how to feel about like the colors here, but it's fine. Here are more of my OCs. This is kind of like a mix of designs between Verbena and Victoria. I don't know if I'm keeping this, but I do like the green as an idea for Victoria. Alabaster's whole thing is that he can kind of be resurrected as long as people find all his pieces and put him back together. So there's this scene of like Evelyn asking Victoria if he's gonna be all right, and there's just, yes, don't drop him again. It was one time and he deserved it, right? Evelyn, he's my boss. So there's that going on. Here's a little comic between the characters too. This is Verbena and Victoria. And Verbena's like welcoming her to a job. The lore goes kind of crazy in this series, but I'm not gonna explain it. But they're kind of in a place where there aren't that many other mutants, and she's kind of experiencing this for the first time, so it's strange. This is another drawing of my Sona with Artex. It was super fun. I feel like I've said that like 5 million times. But the colors are coloring. I love shapes and colors. I don't know if you can tell that as an artist. I love shapes and colors. Here I did a little siren person. Finally, like it took me. Wait, where's the original siren person? It took me this long to get motivated enough to draw a siren, but I finally did. There's supposed to be like fish hooks in their eyes, like the reflection of them. Though I don't think that it's that obvious. I'm pretty happy with the color though. I made the hair kind of like fish fin-ish. That's what I was going for. Here I did a Bannerful page where I just kind of drew until it was filled up. Here's Katie the Brave. I love her design so much. Redheads are like my favorite hair colors to draw because there's just so many colors you can put in there, because there's the orange and then you can do red for shading and brown for shading, and then you can put yellow in there for highlights, and then also you can put blue as like a contrasting color, like just for lighting, and it's really fun. And then there's Forsey and May in the background being all silly, and then there's the Knight Owain. This guy his character design, I thought it was going to be really hard to draw, but somehow I kind of succeeded. I'm pretty impressed. I didn't realize that I was just going to be able to do that, but I did. So I'm happy about that. There's Scott Springwell. He's I don't know. I always get really confused with like all the different Scott characters, because at this point like they've got all these different last names and I just can't remember which is which. But this is Springwell. The shading on his cloak and his hair were really fun to do. Then there's like flowers that he's summoning, and then there's Nominal Gravy in the background. Probably guilty because he's lying to him for so many things. So he's just kind of there. And then there's Emily Petersmark again. This time with Artex and a pen. She recently like released her like first thing as a solo musician, I think on an artist account called Lee Emmy, and she was like promoting her new single called Black Hole, and this was like one of the promotional like photos, and so I drew it. I'm really happy about how the face turned out. Like, I worked forever on the face, and then when it came to the clothes, I just kind of blocked in some colors and then left it at that. But I don't feel like you notice that much as long as you look at the face, because the face just draws you in, and then the rest doesn't matter, surely. Here, I finally drew M from Vampires. I think he was the one guy that I hadn't drawn up until this point. So I drew M, I drew the militia flag, I drew the little vampire bat, and then a little border of flowers, which could be wither roses maybe. And then there's Abolish. I love Abolish Vaylock. He's so cool. He's so underappreciated. He's one of the coolest characters in the story, but nobody acknowledges that. So this is him setting stuff on fire, like probably the forest. This was done with a pen and then some Artex markers. And then here, I finally used some of like the wrappers I'd been saving up. I just had these wrappers in my pocket, not like an actual pocket, but like in the back of the sketchbook. And I finally glued them in. This is another thing of viola. So I used Artex for this, cut it out, put it on here, drew a little strawberry, because I don't know, fruit are fun to draw, so I drew strawberry, grape. And then I put on the little wrappers for this grape candy that I just had the wrappers of. These are, oh no, they're coming off. Don't pay attention to that. Here's her having a little situation where she walks into her boyfriend's house and there's like some guys wearing cloaks. Then there's this little caution tape. Oh my gosh, everything's falling. The freaking wrappers, man. So I just have like a bunch of different flavors taped in. I'm really happy about this page. The colors are fun. I love bright colors. And then here I heard about like the like trick where you can blend crayons with Vaseline. So I wanted to try it. So I drew Cowboy's cherry and Appo and tried the blending thing. It worked out pretty well for these two. And then I drew like Cowboy's Owen and then like Luann's character whose name is Missy. But I learned an unfortunate thing, which is if you leave blank spaces in between the crayon, it just when you rub the Vaseline on, then it just carries like the darkest colors with it. So there's just like a bunch of random splotches on her face now. So sorry, Missy. I really liked her line art, but that doesn't matter anymore. And then here I have Secret Life Gem and Double Life Pearl. I remember like a few sketchbooks ago, I did like a similar drawing. It's cool to have like a recreation of that now. I did that like, I did this yesterday, and then I did like these pages today, like as of filming. I'm really happy with it, how this turned out. This might be one of my favorite things in this sketchbook because of the way like the colors are blocked in, and the line art has all the different colors, and I'm really happy with that. Also her eyes, I finally did cool eyes for Gem. I feel like I finally did her justice. Then, of course, there's always the last page. The last page for me, I just always give up on the last page. It just, I can't draw a good drawing for the last page. So I just did a simple little thing of my Sona saying goodbye. Which is what I'll do right now to you guys. Bye! I might work on some animations again in the future. I'm gonna do Art Fight this summer. So you guys can follow me on Art Fight. And then also when Pantheon happens, I'm probably gonna make a lot of fan art for that. So stay tuned. Goodbye!